Alright, finally getting around to another build. This one started off with this deal I found on this motherboard combo on eBay. Grabbed for 110 bucks. That's an i5-4590 in there, 16 gigs of RAM, and this Asus Q85M-E board. The board itself is pretty good. Got a lot of SATA ports, onboard 3.0 header, reasonable amount of I/O on there as well. I think the i5 is still going to be pretty good for gaming, even though it has 4 cores. Now this does have the 16 gigs of RAM right here. It's this Kingston low profile RAM. I think 16 might be a little bit overkill for the i5. Usually I would say for gaming the 16 gigs of RAM would be if you want to stream or just do multiple other things while you're gaming, or if you're doing other things with the computer like video or photo editing. But since this is going to be streamlined just towards gaming, I'm actually going to put in this Ripjaws 8 gig kit. It's going to have a little bit tighter timings than the kit here and just a better heat sink. I'm not going to be overclocking at all, but I think that just makes more sense for this combination, especially since I'm trying to sell this, and the lower I can keep the cost down on my end, the lower I can sell it for, which means the quicker I can sell it for, and also means that I'll just be giving someone a better deal. For the graphics card, I found this RX 560 on eBay for right around 80 bucks. This is a gigabyte model. I don't believe it's their WindForce. I think they just call it this, just their standard gigabyte entry-level model. Doesn't feel that quality, just taking it out of the box and taking a look at it. I mean, the reason I was trying to look for a single fan graphics card because the case I'm using, I don't even know what brand it is. I just had it laying around. Doesn't have a ton of room for cooling, so I knew I was going to be a little bit restricted on space. I wanted a single fan card. I was looking at 1050 Ti's, but they start at like 120, 130, which I think isn't really worth it. The 560 is pretty close in performance, still has the 4 gigs of VRAM. 80 bucks for this card is great. Will pair great with the i5 and 8 gigs of RAM. I think it's a good option. We'll see how it performs later. For the storage, I just have a 1 terabyte hard drive, 64 megs cache, another eBay buy for 25 bucks. I know solid states are like $20, but honestly, in my experience selling on Facebook Marketplace, stuff like that, a lot of people don't really care if you have a solid state or not. It doesn't add that much value to the build. If they really wanted a solid state, you can buy one for like 20 bucks. So it's a really easy upgrade. So I just chose to leave it out just because, well, it's saving me a little bit of time of having to order it, and I just don't think it's not going to make too much of a difference trying to sell it, since that is my main goal with this build and all the builds I do. I mean, I at least want to break even. For the power supply, I had a CX550M from Corsair. Way overkill for this, but it is semi-modular. Since I'm going to be in a small case, I'm going to need all of the cable management I can get. So I think it's going to be pretty solid overall, but enough talking, I want to get building. These so-called quick release RAM slots are not quick release. I hate these. I would rather just have the two little clips on each side. I don't know why they think this is so much easier than the other one. And then you can make sure that you apply equal force on both sides, and then both clips clip in. Everything's good. Everybody's happy. I don't know why they do this. These are so annoying. Ugh. Now I have these sticks for a different build where I have something with more cores. This is such a strange case. So we have 2 like front-facing SSD mounts, even though there's no window on the side of this case. Maybe that was just leftover design. Maybe there's a trim up level of this case where it does have that where it does have a front window, so you can actually see that. And they put a big one, well, a bigger 120mm fan right in the front, and then they have this tiny little guy in the back. So strange. And then both of these still have Molex connectors for whatever reason. But you know what? It's gonna work. It's gonna work just fine. It's gonna work just fine. The guy on eBay very, very nicely zip-tied the CPU fan in place, and I very much appreciate it. This is the only hole to mount SATA cables through these solid states. It's you mount one like upside down or something like that. That's so weird. Might be a little bit of a clearance issue right here. I might have to mount it up here. I wonder if I have a 5.5 to 3.5 laying around anywhere, because that's not gonna cut it. There's not enough room there. Unless I switch to like a laptop drive. Looks like even with the low profile RAM, there's still not enough clearance there. New plan. This case sucks, because now that I'm thinking, even if I get a 5.5 adapter in there somehow, well, the front panel here is going to be blocking off most of that. And then it looks like this hole is what they want you to use to route the motherboard cables from there, around there, into there, going to the 24 pin and the 4 pin. And that's just going to make this computer disaster. And then, like I said, trying to upgrade the solid state drive later, anything like that, is just going to be, it's just going to be a huge pain. I don't want to use this case anymore. So, I'm going to use this Cooler Master guy instead. I was going to use this for a different computer, and this is a little bit older, a little bit heavier, a little bit chunkier, but after I get it cleaned up, I think it's going to be a much better case than the other one. Before I take this to the recycling center, I'm at least going to take these fans out because these might be somewhat useful. There is nothing to this case at all. Just the cheapest sheet aluminum you could possibly imagine. Look at that. I can literally just bend that with just the force of my hand. And then these things right here, nothing. Takes absolutely nothing. Wow. This was like a $20 Amazon special. I know it's gotta be. Don't cheap out too much on cases. Cooler Master cases. Tried and true. This guy used to have a first generation i3 in there. I'll probably take that case badge off. So much more room for activities. Put a bunch of hard drives in there. I'll probably take that out and put the old fan that was in that case was actually a green LED, so it'll go through the little mesh front here. That'll look pretty decent. And then I can even fit that old fan over there too. Unfortunately, we're missing 3.0 headers now, and I definitely could have fit a longer graphics card in there, especially if I got that cage out, but I know a place where I can get quite a few of these. I think I'll continue working with these, and maybe next build we'll also use this same type of case, and then I can actually take a little bit better advantage of all the extra room we have here. I barely even needed to clean the inside. It is astonishingly clean. I like this case a lot more. Now I can take this Cooler Master fan out and put this guy in the back, this guy in the front. I even have a DVD reader writer I can throw in there because, I mean, I'm not going to be using it and there's space for it, so whatever. All right, everything's put together. It's actually looking pretty good. I don't have the back panel on yet, but the fan's doing exactly what I hoped it would do. Getting that cool mesh in the front. Still have to take that Intel sticker off. And we're in the BIOS. Everything's good. 8 gigs of G skill. It's sitting at 30C right now. Yeah, everything's pretty quiet. We got got really nice and clear airflow from that fan directly over to the GPU and CPU and then out with that little guy. Now I just need to get an OS on it. Just finished running the Firestrike stress test, and the temperatures are looking pretty good. If I go to show details here, CPU caps out at like 33 degrees, which is ridiculous. It really doesn't have to work that hard, it doesn't look like. And then the GPU hangs right around 70 towards the end here. So those are some good thermals. Now I'll just run Firestrike and Time Spy scores. Firestrike score is 5093. 1866 on Time Spy.
So I actually have 1080p benchmarks this time. City Skylines, this is at low to medium settings. Runs pretty well. This game is pretty CPU intensive, which is why the frame times are all over the place. Even on my 8700K, I don't get much over 30 FPS with my 1070. Just not super well optimized. This is Doom 2016 in OpenGL on medium settings. Pretty solid frame rates and frame times all around the board. And the Vulkan API couldn't get the MSI Afterburner overlay to work. So you'll just have to use the one in the top right corner integrated into Doom. I would definitely recommend switching to Vulkan. If you have an AMD card, you get pretty massive performance improvements, even on GeForce cards. This is Project Cars 2 on medium settings. Great FPS, great frame times. I probably could have turned a few settings up a little bit. Resident Evil 2 is a very nicely optimized game. Now this is on technically the lowest settings, which they call performance priority, and it looks pretty good. And the performance is also great. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is the most intensive game on this list, and you get a very playable 30 frames a second. This is medium settings. Really impressive. Still looks awesome. We are almost hitting the edge of our 8 gigs of RAM though. Witcher 3 on medium settings. I probably could have gotten a few more frames if I messed around with settings a bit, but still looks great, still runs great.
Alright, the desktop is now completely finished. I actually swapped out the power supply so I could save the higher wattage one for a different project. Everything's looking good. I was able to clean up the outside and get that sticker off, and it's all ready to be sold. I'm glad I finally got a decent monitor and capture card to benchmark the games, and hopefully I'll have another build coming out soon. Thanks for watching.